Okay, I am here back again with another tutorial. This time the tutorial is something a little more ambient, or using time stretching for ambient purposes. In this case, we're going to take the Halo theme song and time stretch it to infinity, and also we have an extended range of pitch shifting, etc. So let's check it out. Just playing it back normal first. Pitch it up. Almost an octave. Notice it takes the same amount of time. Alright, now let's bring the pitch back to normal and then extend the amount of time that it takes. As you can see now, it's scanning through the sample very slowly, and I can in fact even reverse the playback by inverting the LFO. If I go positive with the LFO, the playhead starts to move backwards. Another thing I can do is add a slight randomness to the start point. Delay and reverb are not on, by the way. I want to speed it up a little bit. Alright, as nice as that is, we got to get going, we got to get moving. We're going to do this thing from start to finish, and that includes gathering the sample. So I'm going to jump to a new pattern. And I got my phone here. One sec. Got my phone here with the Halo theme loaded up, so I'm just going to go to the sampling menu. I'm going to say sample from the external, or where is it at? Oh yeah, in L plus R, because that's where, or no, sorry, USB. That's where the USB sampling, honestly, is a godsend on this device. You can just get a Lightning or USB-C cable to USB Type B. It's gonna do you wonders, I promise you. But anyway, I got the sample loaded up, so I want to sample it kind of after the first cymbal crash. But anyway, so I'm gonna arm it and now press play. And I pause it right before the drums come in. So now how are we going to chop this? Like I said, just kind of chop it after the first cymbal crash. So if you're not familiar with the digitakt, what are you doing here? But no, so you can zoom on the sample for the start point selection, and then you can zoom like that. I'm sure you already know that, but just FYI. Now, make sure that you have a track. If you have a MIDI track selected and try and do function yes, it won't let you preview the sample. That's a little pro tip for you. So if you get confused, make sure you go track, select track, and do function yes. So I want to go after that first cymbal crash, so kind of just somewhere in here. Just kind of just start in the middle. Try and get a zero crossing. It's not super crucial. Oops, of course I just lost my point, but let's trim and now move towards the end. We want to get it before the drums come in. So it pretty much works like that. So I'm just going to crop it like that. And this is how I name samples on the digitakt. Go 9, what is it, a 16th? I honestly have no idea. And I'm just going to call it Halo. And I would do, there's not going to be multiple, but I'm going to call it Halo-1. And you might say, why are you going through all that trouble? Are you going to do that every single time? That's really annoying, especially if you're chopping samples into bars. No. Function, copy. You can copy the name. So that way, next time I go back and I chop the next bar, I just do paste and then increment. But in this case, it's just one sample. We'll get more into the sample chopping workflow in the future. But for now, that's fine. And I'm going to say assign it. If I was to not assign it, then I would have to go into this menu and load the sample in manually. But you can see it's just so. But what I'm going to do first, so now what we're going to do, set up time stretching. So this is the same as before, except notice that I'm going to be holding track when I'm doing every single step of this because I'm controlling all 8 of these at the same time. So what I've done is I've just moved all the samples to be none, so there's no sample playing. So the first thing I'm going to do, hold down track, set this sample start point to 60. That puts it right in the middle. And I know I've explained this before. I'm actually, in the next video, going to explain it more in depth as to why this is, with a little more theory, some graphs for people who are graph people. And if you're doing LFOs and stuff, you kind of got to be a graph person, because guess what? That's a graph. Anyway, so move the sample start point to 60. And then we'll leave this, well, we'll do a little bit of attack time. I'm actually going to bring this down to say like that, the hold time. And now I'll go to the LFO page. We're on LFO 1. So I'll go target is sample start point. Depth is 60. Essentially, this is just counting from 0 to 120. And go to -8. And again, I'll explain in the future video. This is relatively arbitrary, especially for this. Anyway, so let's see what this has done for us. Oh yeah, nothing, because we have no sample selected and we have no trigs. So now I'll select this sample. You can see, look at how nice that naming convention is, chopping up slices. We'll get into that later. So now I go to 916 Halo 1. I say yes. So believe it or not, the next step is to turn on the sequencer and tap in triggers like a madman. Oh wait, no. Crap, I was in chromatic mode. So I need to clear the sequence, get out of chromatic mode, and now do that. Alright, so that's complete chaos. As you can see, the playhead of each track is on a different spot in each track, and that's not what we want. We want all the tracks playing in unison. So what do we do to correct this? Let's select track 1, go into the trigs. If there's a trig there already, we're going to delete it. We're going to add a new trig, and this is our phase aligning trig. Oh wait, we don't want retriggers on this. What am I doing? Phase aligning trig. What we do is we go to the LFO page, and we go to retrigger mode. And then we go to LFO 2 for good measure. It's good practice. Also retrigger. Go to the amp page. Set the volume to 0 because we don't necessarily want to hear this trig. And then we go to the trig conditions and we go to, whoops, I missed it, first. And I'm going to copy this trig. I'm going to paste it on the first step of every one of these tracks. That's why I love the digitakt. That was kind of a rhythmic operation, like doing that multiplied by 8. So now when I play it, it's going to be playing way too fast, but still playing way too fast. I'm going to lower the multiplier by, say, 4. Let's go back to the viewing that. So it's still playing it too fast. And now, the reason in the previous videos I was so crazy about this has got to be -8 exactly is because I cared then about being in time with the sequencer. Now, I'm using all 8 tracks for one thing. I just care about ambient stuff. I want to preserve the loop, but I don't necessarily need this. Basically, I can change this speed to be something slower, like, it's not on the grid, but it still loops. So now, let's see what we got. So now, notice how when I go between each of the tracks, I can actually play the sample just by... You notice how all of the playheads are aligned, whereas before it would jump because they were all out of alignment. Now they're all perfectly in alignment. But some might argue a little too perfectly in alignment. So the next step that I'm going to do to smooth this up a little bit is, this is just one of many LFO or second LFO tricks you can do. Go to the second LFO, set it to sample start point, make the depth real. Actually, I'm going to start with it just all the way at 0. Set it to random. Set this to -8. Again, just kind of a baseline point, -8-ish. And then go to 32, do this, re-triggers like that. It's somewhat arbitrary. So starting out at 0. Now you can almost not even tell what that did, but maybe you could. When I very first started playing it, there was kind of that weird robotic kind of phasiness to it. Now when I add this subtleness to the offset, it kind of makes that phasiness go away. And you can get real extreme with this. So now we can basically play the sample at any speed that we want. So now if I press play, slow it way, way down. So 0 would be just infinitely staying in the same place, right? It's almost at 0. And now if I repitch it, and say add a crazy amount of random, and you can see the start point is jumping all around within that range. Lower that range back down. Just gives you that nice subtle, like many granular processors have that kind of random parameter to smooth out the grains. And now let's play this in backwards. So, pretty much done here, I guess. Two things before I finish this video, because I want to keep it relatively short. This is just the intro. There's going to be more videos, yada yada. So, amp envelopes, very important in this case to achieving different kinds of sounds. Like if you put different samples in, you're going to get different results. Some that you might be. So before you write this method off, make sure you mess with the amp envelope, and you can actually hear what's going on, but just by going like this. You can hear those individual grains. It's kind of unpleasant, but so every time there's a trigger. And actually, one thing I want to point out, there's actually levels here. So if I up the BPM to say 200-ish, and now hit play. So I guess the difference of changing the speed like this rather than with the actual tempo is that your density, the density of the grains stays consistent. What else was I going to say? So amp envelopes are important. Now let's just drop let's drop a drum loop into this very same project. Okay. I'm all over the place, but I want to go back to Halo and just show you here how adding stereo can have a huge impact. So I'm going to do 32 on that track, 16, 8, and 4, 8, 16, 32. Now, let's listen. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to do now is I'm going to reduce this back down, and now we're going to play a drum track and see how the very same pattern can be used to play a drum sample. So I'm going to go to this one. We're super slowed down. Playing it too fast now. See how when I reduce it down to those grains, it gets kind of grainy, I guess, for lack of a better word. And actually, quantization. We have this beautiful global quantization where we can kind of go between fully quantized and unquantized. So this is unquantized. Now if I do quantization, what does that do? It's a little hard to tell. In some cases, it's going to be more evident than others, but it essentially puts everything on 16th notes versus having everything be completely separate, which can sometimes increase or sometimes decrease the quality of your time stretching. And also swing has an effect here as well. It's going to be subtle, but say, let's give it, I don't know, 60% swing, quantize all the way up. Change the swing around. I kind of leave swing off a lot of the times, to be honest, but your mileage may vary, as they say. Now, okay, to close things out, what about a little performance? Ooh, let's not start with that. So slow it down, turn down the pitch quite a bit. Let's go back, pitch back to 0. Okay. Just gonna move through the samples here.
I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through. I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through. I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through.
To make those rainbows in my mind when I think of you sometime, and I want to spend some time with you. Just the two of us, we can make it if we try.
Slow it down.
Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us, spend some time down.
Anyways, that is about all that I'm going to accomplish today. I promised a video. I've had a lot of other stuff going on. It's hard to get a video going, but at the end of the day, it only takes 20 minutes or something. So hope you enjoy. Look out for future videos. I'm going to try and do one every other week. I know that's not a huge commitment on my part, but there's a lot to get into with this. This is just kind of the start. So many ways to flip samples, so many ways to resample, use LFOs, do creative stuff, integrate this within a larger patch. So very excited to share all of that. I promise I will give you the goods eventually. Just bear with me, please. Now, thank you for your viewership, your listenership, whatever it is. Gotten a huge response. I really do appreciate it, guys. And see you next time.